So many factors come into play to assist us on this journey to becoming conscious creators. You may wonder what the world is going to look like as it is awakening, as many individuals around the world are awakening. You may wonder what you will look like as you are awakening and as your awakening is accelerating. And you might try to project into the future to understand what it's going to be like based on the way you have been developing. But you see, that type of projection is a linear projection because we assume that which has happened will happen accordingly at the same pace, which is a flawed thought. Even though we as humans and our brains are wired to think linearly, many things that are occurring within us and outside of us and within this consciousness evolution are exponential. It is incredibly harder to project something, prospect something into the future that is exponentially evolving. If I ask you in an honest moment if you know who you're going to be in half a year or a year from now, would you be able to answer it? No, right? It becomes increasingly more difficult. Yet, if you don't know who you're becoming, how do you trust and how do you find yourself still at ease and at peace with who you are right now and who you are becoming in the future? Well, that part will rely heavily on how much peace you found in the moment. The stronger your alignment is in the moment, the greater the level of peace you have in the moment, the less you will have fears of who you're becoming and how you're changing. No matter how this changes, even if it is exponential, even if it means that certain things will not be the way they used to be. And in a similar fashion, as humanity transforms and changes, you may wonder, how can I be at peace with that too? Because everything starts from that place of the present moment, of the state of alignment. From that place, we are in power. In that place can be truly impact and affect the way reality emerges outside of us. If we would hold fear in the moment about the future, what kind of future are we going to create? Right? If we hold concern, worry, anxiety, resistance in the moment about the future, what kind of future are we going to create? If you were to be a parent and you had a child and you hold great anxiety, fear, concerns about the future of your child, what kind of a parent will you be? Right? So, in some ways, we learn to find a greater sense of peace and a greater sense of ease and a greater sense of trust that emerges from that moment, from this moment. And you'll see the difference between young parents, parents that are evolving, second child, third child, fourth child. And then you see the difference in grandparents that are even more at ease, right? So there is a certain sense of trust that has emerged over the time that trusts despite not knowing. And that trust and that presence in the moment allows for a greater sense of possibilities, allows for a greater sense of love to be present. Now, you could say, oh, my fears and my anxieties, my worries about the future come from a place of love. Sure, we can rationalize everything. And at the same time, it is not about the intention, it's about the energy that is behind the intention. Because the energy behind that intention holds a certain frequency, as every emotion does. An overprotective parent that is driven by their own anxieties or their own unprocessed past, or in all the ways they feel that their parents have failed them, projecting that into their parenthood, what kind of energy will that deliver? It's an overcompensating energy, which then needs to be overcompensated by the child in return. So the cycle continues back and forth. It is a roller coaster until one generation says, it stops with me. I will change the way we have been parenting, the way we have been holding ourselves, the way we have been carrying this old wound from our many generations before into the future generations. And my question to you is, are you that generation? Are you that individual? And in many ways, you will recognize patterns, behaviors, habits, ways of expression that are very similar to your past generations. Yes? We've seen that. And occasionally, someone will reflect it to us, like our siblings, or our cousins, or even our parents. Your mom will say, you talk exactly like your dad. Or your dad will say, that's exactly what your mom would have said. And in many ways, we are learning through these reflections. Yet ultimately, outside of the container of dynamics, interpersonal human dynamics, we are in this space, in this energetic container of becoming a conscious creator. We're expanding our conscious awareness of ourselves, of everything that we are and everything that we were, so that everything that we will be is expanded in possibility. Unprocessed pieces of the past create a certain reality by narrowing down possibilities. So, the more unprocessed stuff we carry, the more likely we're going to recreate circumstances that are correlated, connected to the unprocessed elements of the past. Because that is the way this design is established. And we are here to be receiving guidance and support to transform in a different way, to transform, to evolve, and to mature as a consciousness in human form without recreating the cycles that used to be required to come to realizations. And with that, you suddenly find yourself in greater sense of presence, in greater sense of personal empowerment in the moment. You start to see greater possibilities unfold, even if it is small glimpses of these possibilities unfolding. Suddenly, things start to happen that you did not expect. You say, wow, the universe or this reality is somehow responding to me. Somehow something has clicked in this timeline or in this version of me, in this life that I'm living. Has any of you recognized these kind of openings of possibilities? Synchronizations that are suddenly happening that you did not expect before? that used to be inconceivable because you held a certain perspective of yourself and of the future, almost so deeply ingrained into our being, it seemed inconceivable that we could ever change, transform that much, that our reality would respond to us in a different way. And very often, this response of reality to us starts with the individuals around us. As you may notice incremental changes within your being more subtly, others will notice them much more clearly. And for some of them, that type of change will be a moment of surprise, occasionally pleasant, occasionally challenging. And they may say, "Who are you and what have you done with my wife?" Or they might say, "Well, this is a pleasant surprise. I'm excited that we're going to be relating in a different way." And you would have never expected them to say something like that because you had a certain projection of how they are behaving consistently, how they're responding consistently. The blame, the projection was outside. You needed them to change in order for yourself to feel better and for you to change. And suddenly you're saying, as you let go of the idea that they needed to change, you start to change internally, transform through many factors of personal practice, devotion, dedication, as well as some magnificent process that we're supported in. And through this transformation within you, the outside starts to change as well. That is the reality that you are co creating with others. This fabric of reality recognizes that you're completing loops of realizations and cycles that are unprocessed, incomplete. And therefore, this reality says, well, what are we going to create for this one? It's keep on checking off the boxes of these realization it asked for. So they are becoming more and more self guided. They're becoming more and more masters of their own reality. That's you. And at first, as this realm of possibility opens, and you do not know how your reality will respond to you, you do not know yet how to actually consciously create a certain and different reality, but it is somehow unfolding in a pleasant way, in a different way. At first, we are observers to this process. At first, we are present to this process. This is how we are receiving this transformational process. This is why the presence is so important. Now, some things will start to change, and the mind will do some funny things. The mind will say, well, this is just short lived. It's just a coincidence and it's not real. Like doubts will come in. Yes? The mind will say, oh my God, you're truly becoming a master. You are so good. Look at you, finally, holding the powers to be. The mind will create all kinds of pieces of meaning, interpretation of what is happening to you. It's important to notice that even those mental constructs that apply meaning to a new state that you're in are also incomplete realizations. So the mind will also learn how to navigate this change that you're going through. The heart will also learn to navigate this. And a certain new sense of being will start to emerge within you. It is a greater sense of trust and appreciation of the process. And it's not necessarily belief, because we're not teaching belief here. Has been taught for way too long. You don't have to believe this process for it to work. Yes. While belief can be a powerful tool to create reality and to start creating shifts within you, it is, in my perspective, an old technology. It's operating through the mental constructs, meaning you have to establish a new ingrained mental construct to suppress or overcome other mental constructs within you and to change yourself. And then at some point, you have to break that new mental construct of belief that you've created to break the other ones in order to get to that next stage. It's breaking of beliefs over creating new beliefs. Do you see that? So, in that sense, belief is not an aspect of this work. Then you'll say, well, what am I supposed to believe then? Neither believe or not believe. In a true present moment, in a true present state, none of that exists. Beliefs are just mental constructs that are applied as an interpretation of subjective truth in the moment. And it could be a collectively agreed upon subjective truth. Some people call it interjective. And some people will debate you that there is something like true objectivity. And that goes back again into mental understanding of a process that is way greater and more complex than the mind can truly understand. What matters is, in a moment of true presence, none of that exists. You'll say, okay, I have beliefs and I have doubts, which I will never judge you for having. You're entitled to have a perspective. You're entitled to have exactly the experience that you're having right now, which is perfect in its own way. Even if it's completely opposing my perspective, even if it's completely adverse to your well being or to our collaborative effort. I'll say, well, that's an interesting perspective. I may or may not agree with it. And then we can have a mental human debate about it. But ultimately, we're going to all come back to a practice, and we're all going to go into a state of true presence in which these beliefs, concerns, all of that dissipate, dismantle, dissolve.